I built this family. My mother-in-law said that at every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday, every Sunday dinner for 25 years, standing at the head of the table, wine glass raised like she was dedicating a building with her name on it. My name is Claire Whitfield. I'm 39 years old. I filed the LLC. I baled the hay. I raised 3 children on a 26-acre farm in Kentucky while she was at Myrtle Beach checking her tan lines. And for 25 years, I said nothing. But my father-in-law, Harold, a man who said maybe 400 words in a good year, had been keeping track. 14 camcorder tapes, 17 years of footage, and a message he left in the attic for me to find. If stories like mine matter to you, that subscribe button means more than you know. Let me take you back to the spring of 2001. A hay farm outside Harlan, Kentucky. The kind of land where the roosters don't wait for your alarm and the fences don't fix themselves. I married Ben Whitfield on a Saturday in June. Small wedding. 38 guests. His mother, Darlene, wore cream. Close enough to white that Ben's Aunt Martha leaned over to her husband and whispered, "Is she the one getting married?" I laughed. Martha's husband, Frank, elbowed her and said, "That's a woman who doesn't plan on sharing." I thought it was funny. I didn't know it was a declaration of territory. Ben was a good man. Quiet. Steady. The kind who fixed the water heater without being asked, but couldn't disagree with his mother without his voice cracking. He loved me. He just loved peace more. The farm belonged to Ben's father, Harold Whitfield. A tall, quiet man who smelled like diesel and cut hay and communicated mostly through nods. He'd built the operation from 12 acres to 26 over 40 years. Hay, a small tobacco, lease, a few cattle. Nothing fancy. Enough to live. When we moved in, the farmhouse had 1 working bathroom, a kitchen from 1974 with orange countertops, and a porch that leaned so far left you could roll a marble from one end to the other without touching it. Darlene's first assessment of my new home. "Well, Claire, I hope you like projects." I did. That was the only honest thing she ever said about me. Within the first year, I tore out the porch and rebuilt it. Not helped rebuild. Rebuilt. I pulled the rotten boards myself, measured and cut every replacement plank, hammered every nail. Ben poured the concrete footings. Harold watched from his truck with a coffee thermos. When it was done, he nodded once. From Harold, that was a 5-star review. By year 2, I'd taken over the books. The farm had no accounting system. Harold kept receipts in a Folgers coffee can. I bought a ledger from the Walmart in Harlan. Then a second-hand Dell computer for $140. Then QuickBooks. I filed the LLC paperwork myself. Whitfield Family Farm, LLC. Drove to the county clerk's office, filled out every form, paid the $50 filing fee from our joint checking. Darlene's reaction, "Oh, Claire's playing businesswoman now." Playing. The woman who hadn't filed a tax return in her entire life was telling me I was playing. The children came fast. Lily, in 2003. Thomas, in 2005. Jacob, in 2008. 3 babies in 5 years on a working farm with no daycare, no nanny, and no mother-in-law who offered to help. Darlene lived 11 minutes away. In the nicer house Harold had built before ours. 3 bedrooms, central air, a deck with wicker furniture. She came over twice a week, not to hold a baby, not to fold laundry, to inspect. She'd walk through my kitchen, run a finger along the counter, and hold it up. "Sticky," she'd say. While I was nursing Jacob with one arm and stirring oatmeal for Lily with the other, and Thomas was crying in the high chair because he wanted applesauce, not oatmeal, and the cattle needed feeding in 20 minutes. A clean home is a loved home, Claire. She never brought a casserole. Never held a baby so I could shower. Never offered to watch the kids, so I could sleep past 4:30. But she had opinions about my countertops. When Lily turned 3, I threw a party. 12 kids. Homemade cake. Streamers I'd hung at midnight after finishing the farm accounts. Darlene arrived 40 minutes late, looked at the kitchen, and said to Jessica, not to me, to Jessica, "I don't know how she lives like this." My house had Play-Doh on the floor and dishes in the sink because I'd been running a farm since dawn. Her house had central air and a cleaning lady who came on Tuesdays. I was running a 26-acre farm, raising 3 children under 5, balancing the books, and cooking for Sunday dinners she took credit for. She was inspecting my countertops in a pressed blouse that had never seen a hay bale. Harold saw everything. He never had much to say, but his eyes missed nothing. One Tuesday afternoon, he came up to me while I was fixing the gate on the north pasture. He handed me a camcorder. Old Sony Handycam. The kind with the flip-out screen and the mini DV tapes. "Film the kids," he said. 2 words. But his eyes said something else entirely. I filmed everything. First steps, first words, birthday candles. But also me at 5 in the morning hauling feed buckets. Me driving the hay baler while Lily sat in the buddy seat eating Cheerios. Me at midnight balancing the ledger on the kitchen table with a baby monitor crackling beside me. I filmed because Harold asked me to. I didn't question it. I didn't know he had a camera of his own. I didn't know he was building something with it. Sunday dinners were Darlene's stage. 20 people, sometimes 25. The Whitfield family was big. Ben had 3 brothers, Tom, David, and Russell, each married, kids everywhere. My pot roast, my mashed potatoes, my apple pie from scratch. And then Darlene would stand. Wine glass. The speech. I built this family from nothing. Harold and I started with 12 acres and a prayer. And look at this table. Look at what I made. What she made? She made a speech. I made the meal everyone was eating. She never said my name at those dinners. Not once in 25 years. I was Ben's wife. Or the girl. Or just a pronoun. She made the potatoes. She'll clean up after. Tom's wife Jessica squeezed my hand under the table one Christmas. You know she's awful, right? I know. Why don't you say something? Because Harold asked me to keep the peace. Harold. The only Whitfield who ever said thank you. Who said good work when I fixed the irrigation line in the north field. Who left a Snickers bar on the tractor seat after a 14-hour day. Who once, without saying a word, drove his truck to the end of the driveway and blocked Darlene's car from leaving so she'd have to stay and watch the kids while I went to the feed store. She was furious. He just sat in his truck and read the John Deere catalog until she gave up. He never explained. He didn't have to. Harold was diagnosed with lung cancer in February 2019. 4 months from diagnosis to funeral. The fastest, cruelest timeline. I was with him every single day. I drove him to every appointment at the VA in Lexington 45 minutes each way. I made his meals. I adjusted his oxygen tank. I sat with him on the porch I'd rebuilt with my own hands, and we watched the sun set over the hayfield. Darlene visited 3 times. 3 times in 4 months while her husband was dying. She was in Myrtle Beach for 6 weeks. Then Branson, then a church retreat in Pigeon Forge that happened to be next door to a Dolly Parton tribute show. Her husband was on supplemental oxygen. She was watching a sequined Elvis impersonator. Jessica said it best. She's grieving in advance. Tom shook his head. She's not grieving at all. Harold's last words to me were on a Thursday evening. The oxygen was hissing. The light through the window was gold. The tapes, Claire. Don't let her have the tapes. I held his hand. I didn't understand yet. Harold died on a Sunday. The funeral was the following Wednesday. 200 people came. Harold was more loved than Darlene ever knew because she never paid attention to anyone who wasn't paying attention to her. Darlene gave the eulogy. 7 minutes. About herself. How she'd stood by Harold through thick and thin. How she'd built the farm beside him. How she'd sacrificed her youth for this family. She used the word I 31 times. She said Harold's name 4 times. She said mine 0. After the service, people lined up to hug me. It's not her. Because everyone in Harlan had seen my car in the hospital parking lot every day for 4 months. And everyone had noticed whose car wasn't there. Martha muttered to her husband on the way out. She went to the beach while he was on oxygen. Russell's wife Karen said to Tom's wife Jessica, "Did she really just say she stood by him through thick and thin?" Jessica nodded. Thick and thin and Myrtle Beach. I said nothing. Harold had asked me to keep the peace, so I kept it. Even when keeping it felt like swallowing something that didn't want to go down. The years after Harold passed were the years Darlene got louder. Without Harold's quiet steadiness anchoring the family, she filled every silence with her own voice. I built this family, I sacrificed everything for this family, none of you would exist without me. Meanwhile, I was actually building. There's a night I think about sometimes. February, 3:30 in the morning. The kitchen table was covered in paperwork, a 40-page USDA organic certification application, new fencing requirements, feed sourcing documentation, soil test results. I'd been working on it for 9 months. Lily was asleep upstairs. Thomas had a cold. Jacob had kicked his blanket off twice already, and I'd gone up to fix it both times. I sat at that table in Harold's old flannel shirt, the one that still smelled like cut hay, and I filled in line after line in my own handwriting because the online portal kept crashing on our slow internet. Page 37 asked for a facility narrative. I wrote 4 paragraphs about a 26-acre farm that had grown to 31. About a hay operation I'd expanded into mixed hay, beef, and a farm-to-table stand I'd built from an old tobacco barn. About a woman who'd filed the LLC at 26 and was still filing paperwork at 38 because nobody else was going to do it. I finished at 4:50 a.m. The coffee was cold. I poured it out, put on my boots, and went to feed the cattle. By the time Darlene woke up in her house with central air 11 minutes away, I'd already done more work than she'd done in a calendar year. That certification came through. The farm stand brought in $42,000 the next year. Ben worked beside me every day. He was a good partner on the land. But the applications, the certifications, the plans at 3 in the morning, that was mine. Darlene's contribution to the farm stand? She came once. On opening day, bought a jar of apple butter for $6. Told the customer next to her, "My family makes this." The customer, a retired school teacher named Patty, who'd been buying my eggs for 2 years, looked at me, looked at Darlene, and said nothing. But she squeezed my hand on the way out. Her family? She hadn't touched dirt since Reagan was in office. I had to bite the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted copper. That Thanksgiving, she outdid herself. 23 people at the table. I'd been cooking since 5 a.m. Turkey, 2 kinds of stuffing, sweet potatoes, green beans, 3 pies. Darlene arrived at noon with a bottle of wine that cost $12. She set it on the counter, looked around at the food, and said, "It's so nice to keep traditions alive." Traditions, I started. Ben caught my eye across the kitchen. He mouthed, "I'm sorry." I mouthed back nothing. There was nothing left to mouth. Would you have kept quiet? Or would you have stood up right there and told 23 people the truth? If you already know your answer, tap the screen twice. And tell me in the comments. Then came the golden anniversary. Darlene decided to celebrate her 50th wedding anniversary, even though Harold had been gone for 5 years. A tribute to what we built. A party for a marriage where one partner was dead and the other had been at the beach while he died. She spent 4 months planning. The Harlan Community Center. October 18th. 120 guests. Gold tablecloths. A 3-tier cake from a bakery in Lexington that cost more than my first car. A band that played Patsy Cline. Color-coordinated napkins. Everything gold. She asked Tom to put together a video tribute. Tom said yes, then immediately called Ben. I have no idea what to put in this thing. Ben called me. Tom needs help with the anniversary video. What video? A slideshow or something. For Mom's party. I said I'd help. Tom came over with 2 boxes Darlene had curated. Photo albums. Framed pictures. Every single photo featured Darlene. Darlene at Christmas. Darlene holding babies. Darlene posed next to the pasture fence in a sundress like she'd just finished mending it. In 25 years of Whitfield family photographs, I appeared in 3. Background. Blurred. Holding a dish or a child or a garden hose, Tom stared at the boxes on my kitchen table. Where are you in any of these? She didn't include me. He sat there for a long time. This is insane, Claire. Welcome to the last 25 years, Tom. That night, after Tom left, I went to the attic, Harold's things. His flannel shirts that still smelled like cut hay, his leather tool belt, his reading glasses on a John Deere catalog, and a shoebox. Inside, 14 mini DV tapes, each one labeled in Harold's careful handwriting. Dates spanning 2001 to 2018. Some years had 2 tapes. I'd forgotten. Harold had his own camcorder. He'd been recording things I never saw him point a camera at. I didn't have a mini DV player. I drove to a pawn shop in Lexington and bought a used Sony camcorder for $35. Drove home, plugged it into our old television. The first tape, August 2001. 5 in the morning. Camera on a tripod, pointed at the barn door. A figure walks out into the purple dawn, 26 years old. Ponytail. Rubber boots. 2 feed buckets. Harold's voice, barely above a whisper. Claire. 5:14 a.m. Cut to noon. Me on my hands and knees on the porch, pulling rotten planks with a claw hammer. Cut to 3 in the afternoon. Darlene's car in the driveway of her house. Darlene on her deck. Lawn chair. Iced tea. Magazine. Harold's voice. Darlene. 3:07 p.m. I watched every tape. All 14. 17 years of footage. And the pattern was so consistent it made my chest hurt. Every single tape. The same structure. Me at dawn. Working. Feeding cattle. Fixing gates. Carrying a baby on my hip while I repaired the fence line. Driving the tractor with Lily reading in the buddy seat. Painting the barn at 6 a.m. before anyone woke up. Filing papers. Cleaning up after Sunday dinner while Darlene's car disappeared down the driveway. And Darlene at the beach. On her deck. At the salon. Shopping. At Sunday dinners. Standing with her wine glass. Delivering the speech. I built this family. Harold had documented every lie. For 17 years. In silence. With timestamps. The last tape. 2018. 1 year before he died. Just his voice. Camera on a tripod. Pointed at the hayfield at sunset. That golden light. Claire, if you're watching this, I'm probably gone. You built everything she takes credit for. I should have said it out loud. I didn't. I was a coward. But I filmed it. Every morning. Every fence. Every late night. 25 years of truth on these tapes. Do with them what you want. But don't let her rewrite what happened. You were always the builder. She was always the guest. I sat on the attic floor and pressed my hands against my face. The same gesture I'd seen Harold make 100 times when he felt too much to say. I watched every tape twice. Some of them 3 times. Not for evidence. I already had the evidence. I watched them because Harold's voice was on them, and I missed his voice. The last time I pressed stop, the sun was coming up through the attic window. I'd been sitting there all night. I called Tom that morning. I have something for the video. Now picture this next scene. Saturday evening, October 18th. The Harlan Community Center. 120 people in folding chairs. Gold tablecloths on every surface. Patsy Cline playing softly through rented speakers. A 3-tier cake with gold fondant on a table by the entrance. A projector and a 10-foot screen at the front of the room. Darlene in a cream dress. Gold jewelry. Hair done at a salon in Lexington that morning, $160 for an updo. She stood at the podium and delivered her speech. 12 minutes. The longest one yet. Harold and I built this family from nothing. 26 acres of dirt and a dream. I raised 4 boys. I ran a household. I sacrificed my own ambition so this family could thrive. Everything you see, the farm, the children, the grandchildren, this community started with me. 120 people clapped. Some of them believed it. Most of them had never thought to question it. Tom looked at me from across the room. I nodded. He pressed play. The projector hummed. The screen lit up. The first image was supposed to be Darlene's curated slideshow. Her baby photos. Her Christmas mornings. Her posed pictures by fences she never mended. Instead, a hayfield at dawn. Purple sky. Dew on the fence posts. A figure walking out of a barn carrying 2 feed buckets. The camera was slightly shaky Harold's hands, holding it from behind the barn door. Harold's voice through the community center speakers, quiet and steady. Claire, 514A, M. The room shifted. Not a gasp. Something quieter. The sound of 120 people leaning forward at the same time. Darlene's smile froze. Not faded, froze. The way a clock stops, you can still see where the hands were pointing. The footage rolled. Me rebuilding the porch. Sweat on my forehead. Hammer in my hand. Me at the county clerk's office with the LLC paperwork. Me nursing Lily while balancing the farm ledger on my knee. Me driving the hay baler in August heat with Thomas in a carrier strapped to my chest. Harold's quiet narration on every clip. Dates. Times. What I was doing? Then, Darlene on her deck at 3 in the afternoon. Iced tea. Magazine. Darlene. 3:07 p. M. A murmur went through the room. Not surprise. Recognition. The sound people make when they always suspected something, but never had the proof. Martha, the same woman who'd whispered about the cream dress at my wedding 25 years ago, stood up from her chair. She didn't walk out. She just stood. Like she couldn't watch this sitting down. Jessica was crying. Silently. Hand over her mouth. Louise Harper, Darlene's friend of 40 years, who'd driven from Knoxville, set down her dessert fork and didn't pick it up again. David, Ben's brother, who'd barely spoken to me in 2 decades, turned to his wife and said, loud enough for 3 tables to hear, she lied. About all of it. Mrs. Calloway from the church auxiliary shook her head slowly, the way you shake your head when a story you've told yourself for years falls apart. Ben's brother, Russell, put his arm around his wife. Neither spoke. A woman I didn't recognize, someone's cousin from Pikeville, leaned to the person next to her and whispered, did anyone else know? The person next to her whispered back, everyone knew. We just didn't have the film. Pastor Jim Whitaker, who'd married Ben and me 25 years ago, folded his hands in his lap and stared at the screen the way he stared at scripture. Like he was reading something that had always been there but never been spoken aloud. Do you think Darlene saw it coming? Tap the screen twice if you think she deserved every second of this. Because it's not over yet. The footage continued. Year after year. Me at 5A. Darlene at 3P. Me hauling hay bales. Darlene at the beach. Me painting the barn before sunrise. Darlene at the salon. Me driving kids to school, to doctors, to soccer, to church. Darlene at Branson. Darlene at Pigeon Forge. Darlene at Myrtle Beach. 7 minutes of footage on a 10-foot screen. 17 years of I built this family, dissolving in real time in front of 120 witnesses. The footage kept going. 2007. Me at 5:15 a.m. in January. Snow on the ground. Carrying Jacob on my hip while I broke ice off the cattle trough with a hammer. Harold's voice. Claire. 5:15. 14 degrees. Then Darlene. Same day. Her car wasn't in the driveway. She was in Florida. Harold's voice. Darlene. Tampa. Somebody at table 4 made a sound. Not a word. Just air leaving a body. 2012. Me on my hands and knees painting the barn floor at 5 a.m. while the kids slept. Darlene at a spa in Asheville. 2015. Me driving the tractor in August heat so thick the camera lens was fogging. Thomas in the buddy seat. Lily waving from the fence. Darlene at a craft fair in Gatlinburg. Year after year after year. The same quiet devastation. A man at the back, Ed Calloway, who'd known Harold since high school, took off his glasses and cleaned them. Slowly. The way men do when they don't want anyone to see their eyes. Tom's daughter, Grace, 14 years old, was recording on her phone. She didn't know she was recording. Her hand just went to her pocket. Russell's wife, Karen, turned to the woman next to her, a neighbor named Dorothy, who'd brought Darlene casseroles for years, and said, "She told me she ran that farm." Dorothy didn't answer. She was staring at the screen. Then the final clip, Harold's voice. The sunset. The hayfield. That golden light that only happens in Kentucky in October. Claire, if you're watching this, I'm probably gone. Darlene's hand began to shake. The wine glass trembled against her ring. You built everything she takes credit for. A woman at table 9 put her napkin to her lips. I should have said it out loud. I didn't. Martha sat back down. Slowly. Like her knees had decided before her brain. Don't let her rewrite what happened. The room was silent except for Harold's voice and Patsy Cline, and nobody was listening to Patsy Cline. You were always the builder. She was always the guest. The screen went dark. 120 people. Not one clapped. Someone coughed. Someone else's chair creaked. Those were the only sounds for 11 seconds. I counted. Darlene set her wineglass on the podium. Carefully. The way you set something down when you know everything around you is falling. She looked at Tom. You did this. Tom shook his head. Grandpa did this, Mom. She looked at Ben. Her voice dropped to a hiss. Control your wife. Ben stood up. In 25 years of marriage, I had never once seen my husband stand up to his mother. Not at Sunday dinners. Not at Christmas. Not at the funeral. Not once. He looked at her. His voice didn't shake. Claire is the only reason this family has anything to stand on. And you know it. Darlene's face went white. Not pink. White. The color of someone watching 25 years of performance collapse in 7 minutes of camcorder footage. She walked out, past the 3-tier cake, past the rented band, past 120 people who now knew exactly what she'd built and what she hadn't. Her heels on the linoleum were the only sound in that room. Click, click, click. The sound of someone leaving a building they used to own. Ed Calloway watched her go. He turned to the man next to him. Harold always was the smartest one in that marriage. The band didn't know what to do. The lead singer looked at the guitar player. The guitar player shrugged. Patsy Cline kept playing through the speakers. Crazy. The most accidentally perfect song choice in the history of anniversary parties. Louise Harper stopped at my table on her way out. I've known Darlene 40 years, she said. I believed every word she ever told me. I'm sorry. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. But she does. Within 3 months, the truth settled into the Whitfield family, the way groundwater finds its level. Quietly. Permanently. Darlene stopped hosting Sunday dinners. Nobody came. The long table in her dining room sat empty for the first time in 30 years. For the first time in 25 years, the family gathered at my farmhouse instead. My table, my pot roast, my porch. 2 of Darlene's bridge club friends, women who'd played cards with her every Tuesday for 15 years, stopped calling. Louise sent me a Christmas card from Knoxville. To the real builder. With respect, Darlene sold her house within the year. The nice one Harold had built. 3 bedrooms, central air. The deck with the wicker furniture where she drank iced tea at 3 in the afternoon while I baled hay. She moved to a 1-bedroom condo in Lexington. Smaller. No porch, no garden, no view of anything except a parking lot and a dumpster. 11 minutes from the farm became 45 minutes from anyone who cared. She called Ben once, 6 weeks after the party. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. She said, I don't understand why your father did that to me. Ben said, he didn't do it to you, Mom. He did it for Claire. She hung up. She hasn't called back. Russell told me she tried calling David's wife for Thanksgiving plans. The call went to voicemail. She tried Martha. Martha picked up, listened for 10 seconds, and said, Darlene, I think you should call Claire. Darlene hung up on her, too. Ben and I don't talk about Darlene much anymore. There isn't much to say. The farm is ours. The name is on the mailbox. The LLC I filed 23 years ago is still active. The farm stand did $48,000 last year. The organic certification is framed on the wall of the barn office, next to a photo of Harold on the tractor. Lily is 22 now. She runs the books, same ledger system I built, just on better software. Thomas manages the cattle operation. Jacob wants to study agriculture at the University of Kentucky. 3 kids who grew up watching their mother work and who know exactly who built what. Last month, I found one more tape. It was tucked inside Harold's old toolbox, behind a set of socket wrenches. A mini DV with no label. Just a strip of masking tape that said, Claire? I played it on the old camcorder. Harold's voice. The porch at sunset. Claire, I'm making this one just for you. Not for the family. Not for any party. Just you. I want you to know that I saw you. Every morning at 5. Every fence you fixed. Every time she said your name like it was a chore, I saw you flinch and keep going. You're the strongest person I've ever known. And I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to say it while it mattered. You built this family. All of it. And I'm proud of you, kiddo. I sat on the porch. The one I rebuilt in 2001 with my own hands. The sun was going down over the hayfield, the same field Harold filmed for 17 years. The light was gold. The cattle were quiet. I closed my eyes and played it one more time. My name is Claire Whitfield. I'm 39 years old. I filed the LLC. I fixed the porch. I baled the hay. I raised the children. I kept the books. I built the farm stand. I got the certification. I wrote the grant. I did it at 5 in the morning when no one was looking and at midnight when everyone was asleep. And now everyone knows it. Some people give speeches about what they've built. Some people just build. The quiet ones don't always get the podium, but they get the sunrise, that honest hour when the work is real and the land doesn't care whose name is on the toast. If someone in your life has been building while someone else takes the bow, sit with that for a moment. I'll be right here on the porch when you're ready for the next one.